Space. I'm Kim Kral. I am reporting to you not live from my closet. And I am sitting here on Zoom with a very funny, lovely Sarah Albritton. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Kim. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Pretty chilled. Yeah.
Yeah, the world's reopening up, I guess. And
Yeah.
how do you feel about that?
I'm excited. I was super happy once I got fully vaccinated because I'm a very social person. So this last year was a bit difficult for me. It's good to see friends again and do social things. Like I did a memorial hang on the beach with a bunch of friends, and that was really cool. So
yeah, I was going to go to that, but then I didn't go to that. I'm like one of the 5 people that hates the beach.
Why do you hate the beach?
I don't know. It's the ocean is not our business. Like it's their world. We need to just leave them in there, leave it alone. And then sand is everywhere. It takes so long to get there. It takes so long to park. It takes so long to walk from your car to wherever you're going. You have your like chair, your food, your blanket, all of it. And then you get there and you're just like, well, I don't get in the ocean, so here it is. But I also slept most of Monday, so
yeah.
I know I'm one of 5 people. I feel very strong about it.
You do. I mean, it's like almost like me and salads. I really hate salads. It's like eating water. I don't see the fucking point of it. So
you don't eat salads?
I don't eat salads. I don't like them. No, it's like eating water. It's boring. Like most lettuce, unless like it's just not good. Unless it's like a salad that has like a lot of meat and different things in it, like it's boring. Like well, I don't know. Like
do you make like have you ever tried making another kind of salad?
Well, yeah, I'll make a bowl, like a bowl with like couscous or quinoa or something like that, but that has like something else in it. That's not a salad. I think that salads with just leaves and stuff, it's you're eating water. It's not nutritional value. It's like I don't understand why anybody orders a salad at like a restaurant, especially like a fast food place or something, because it's just not good for you. So yeah, I'm similar to you. Like I am the rare person that doesn't really like salad, and people are like, like you live in LA. What do you eat?
I went on a date with a guy and that was his like thing. He was scared that would be a deal breaker. He was like, I don't eat vegetables. And I was like, what? Like any? What do you eat?
To clarify, I eat vegetables, but I prefer like meat, side of veggie, and maybe like a healthy carb,
That's so funny. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, he was very, and I had a lot. I was like, what are you, 5 years old? What do you mean? Like no veg? He's like, no, I just don't eat them. None of them. So I guess salad, I don't know. You're from Chicago.
I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, actually. But I moved here from Chicago. Yeah. So I was born
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry, no, Zoom issues, I guess. No, I was born and raised in Louisville, Kentucky, and then I went to college and moved, and Chicago is where I started comedy, and then I moved here from Chicago.
So you're from Kentucky, Louisville. How do you say it? Louisville?
Louisville, just like you've had like just a little bit of bourbon, and you're starting to slur your words. Louisville.
Because people say Louisville, right?
Yeah, that's not right.
That's not correct. Well, it's like when people say New Orleans or however they say it, and it's like, ugh, jump off a building.
Yeah.
But it's Louisville. Louisville. So that's crazy. I did not know that about you. So you didn't do comedy. Like, did you always? So Sarah is a comedian, a writer, actress. What else am I missing?
Podcaster, I guess.
Podcaster. Oh, yeah, I was on her podcast. She has a very funny podcast called Sleeping with Sarah, which we'll dive into because she is narcoleptic. And we want to talk about that a bunch. But I want to get like more of a backstory so the listeners like know more about you before we like dive into your shit, Because this show with my guests is called Crawling Up. So I like to talk about stuff that you've done. I know it's a pun with my name, cute, right? I was way too proud of that. But I want to talk about like shit that like I can't imagine being diagnosed with something like that. I know one narcoleptic person. It was my dad's only girlfriend growing up. And it was wild. Like she would like, I had so many questions, but you weren't allowed to like, especially, like you weren't allowed to ask because that kind of stuff has such a weird stigma to it, but it shouldn't. And like, if I were to ask, my dad would be like, you're being rude. And I'm like, well, it's an interesting thing. You know what I mean? And like, you're like, I want to bring awareness to it because it's.
Of course.
It's
like,
not.
I'm never offended when people want to know. The thing is like, I'm never offended if people are curious and they want to know more about it. Absolutely. Like I'm happy to dispel any misconceptions, because that's what a lot of things are, like, especially a lot of invisible disabilities, like people don't really see them physically, so it's really hard for them to understand what it really is.
Yeah.
So I will never be upset if someone comes at me from a genuine curiosity moment. And honestly, sometimes people ask ridiculous questions that I end up just turning into a joke on stand-up. So it's like, if you ask me a question that's like offensive or ridiculous, I'm going to talk about it on my set. So
what's the most ridiculous question you've ever gotten?
I mean, I get a lot of weird questions. Like one of the and it's also certain assumptions. I had somebody after a show that was like, they're like, oh, you know, you talked about narcolepsy. I thought that was a made up thing like Tourette's. Someone literally said that to me. And I was like, Tourette's is real too.
Tourette's is also not made up, you moron.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's probably one of the dumbest questions. I call these Brad questions.
Yeah. I use the word Kyle. Brad, Kyle.
Brad, Kyle. Yeah. But Brad or Kyle questions, those kinds of questions. I mean, you know, I get a lot of things, you know, and that works into my material, which is great. I get people that are like, that will shout out in a show. Like I had somebody shout out, yeah, if you fell down right now, you would laugh. I would laugh. And I was like, I'd be like, okay, yeah, I hope so. Because if I'm going down, at least I'll get a laugh out of it. You know, like, stuff like that. Like people, yeah. And people mostly associate it with like Deuce Bigalow, Male Gigolo, or Rat Race, or any of the other number of movies that came out in the early 2000s.
Was there a narcoleptic person on Deuce Bigalow?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was like Amy Poehler's played the Tourette's girl, but like one of the girls he went out with was narcoleptic.
And the only thing I ever noticed with Nancy, that was my dad's girlfriend, Nancy. And I think she was Andy Warhol's like granddaughter or some shit like that. What? I have no idea. I know. And Andy Warhol, or what's the other?
I don't know if you can see, I have Andy Warhol quote.
Yeah. Thing. I don't know whatever happened to her. Like my dad broke up with her and then he died. And then we were all like, should we call Nancy and tell Nancy Tom died? And then no one knew how to get a hold of her. But I know that's such a grim, it's fine. He died a while ago. And the listeners of the show know that he was kind of a trash bag. So it's totally cool. But that's a lot to unpack since you don't know that. But like the only thing that I noticed with her was like, we would be at like dinner and she would nod off. Mm-hmm. That was it. Like there was never. So will you tell us what narcolepsy is, since people don't believe it's real, apparently? What a dumbass.
It is real. Well, narcolepsy, it's basically it's somebody who has like an uncontrollable need to like sleep. So basically there are lots of different symptoms to narcolepsy. The major one is excessive daytime sleepiness, which you just feel tired all the time. Like I wake up every morning as if somebody who has slept that has been awake for 2 or 3 days straight. That's how I wake up every morning. And
Jesus.
I take medicine to stay awake. They have good medication that helps, but then there's other levels to it too. Some people have disruptive nighttime sleepiness, which seems counterintuitive because you think like insomniacs have that, but narcoleptics have that too. Other things we have, hypnagogic hallucinations or hypnopompic hallucinations. That's where you naturally hallucinate when you're first waking up or when you're really tired. So like I used to see things that weren't there. And like in high school, when it started, I was 14, 15, I was almost 16 when I got diagnosed. So for 2 years I had symptoms. Like I just thought I was like crazy because I knew I was seeing things that weren't there. I knew I could hear, I had a lot of audio hallucinations too. So I knew I was hearing things that weren't there. And I was like, okay, I'm smart. I might be crazy, but I'm smart. I'm going to teach myself how to like assimilate into the world and people not realize I'm crazy. But thankfully, to my relief.
Can I ask you, interrupt real quick? When that was happening to you, were you like isolated? What is it like? Do you have parents that you could go to and be like, yo, this is happening? Or were you like, I shouldn't tell anybody because I think I'm crazy?
Yeah, it was like, is it the point? Like, I think, you know, I'd seen movies like Girl Interrupted and things like that. And I was like, well, you know, like this is something you don't tell other people. If you hear things that aren't there, see things that aren't there, you don't tell other people. I didn't want to end up in a nut house. Although I did tell my parents this recently, like I didn't tell my parents about this until I think this last year. Like this is just something I forgot to tell them that I was, you know, that I kept quiet until I, you know, that I didn't, really? That I knew I was. And my dad was just like, oh, honey, your mom would never your mom would have never let us put you in a nut house. And I was like, well, thank you. That feels nice. But
yeah. Well, then how did you get diagnosed? Like if you weren't like, yo, I'm seeing shit or I'm hearing shit.
Well, that, that's on top of just the sleepiness. So I
Mhm.
was sleeping a lot. I think it started like probably the back half of my 8th grade year. So I was like 13. I was younger, so I was 13. And then it heightened when I was 14 and 15. I kept sleeping a lot. And so my parents know me. They know I'm not like a lazy person or anything. But so they kept taking me to doctors, and doctors kept being like, well, because I had mono when I was 9, they kept being like, well, maybe it's mono. I got tested for that a bunch. I got tested for hypoglycemia and diabetes because for a while I was just eating to stay awake because the sugar would keep me awake, and they
Oh
just couldn't figure
man.
out what was wrong. They just kept like I went to the doctor like 12 times in like 2 years, trying to figure out what was up. And they didn't know. And the thing is that narcolepsy is super, super misdiagnosed. Like I think it was like pediatricians misdiagnose narcolepsy like 90 something percent of the time. It's
Oh
going to the
shit.
right doctor, which is weird. So there are other symptoms of narcolepsy I didn't go by. This sleep paralysis is one, but a lot of people will have that occasionally, but I would have it like often where you feel like you're paralyzed, but you move, you can't move or scream or say anything.
I've heard about that. So you're sleep paralysis, you wake up and literally you aren't able, you're conscious, but your body isn't working.
Yeah, your body is frozen. And like I
That's
used to have that
horrifying.
daily, and sometimes you have a hallucination on top of that. So like I used to hallucinate a spider crawling my leg and there's nothing I could do, or some people hallucinate like a shadowy figure in the corner. And a lot of people that don't have narcolepsy will experience this a couple times in their lifetime, but like I was doing this daily. Like the reason I passed my classes was because I could hear everything that was going on in the lesson because I was stuck in sleep paralysis, and I could only get out if somebody either said my name or physically touched me. So like a math teacher would be like, "Oh, Sarah, what's the answer to that question?" And I would know because even though I was asleep, I could hear what was going on.
But they thought you were sleeping in class.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was sleeping.
Technically you were, but like you had a disorder that was having you do that, but they thought you were just being sleepy in class, right?
Yeah,
Before you got diagnosed.
And I would do things like I would like be like my head down. I would try to be like, okay, lift your head, lift your head, lift your head. I would try to will myself to lift my head. I'd be able to lift my head a little bit, and then I would immediately like lose control. So yeah, it was weird. I didn't know what.
Sounds horrible.
Yeah, I mean, it is. And my mom has experienced sleep paralysis before. Her and her sister kind of have shared dreams sometimes with that, where they'll wake each other up. So she's had sleep paralysis before, so they knew about that. But I don't think they knew how often it was happening and how much I couldn't really control it. And then the big thing that people associate narcolepsy with is a cataplexy, which is only about 40% of narcoleptics have cataplexy. And that is a sudden loss of muscle control in the body. That's where you physically fall to the ground.
Do you have that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how I got diagnosed. So I was in a math class. I was in my, I think, geometry class, Mrs. Pointer's class. So I was in my class. I was going up. This was right before spring break of my sophomore year of high school, and they had like the TI-86 calculator or whatever the freaking calculator that we had to have.
That stupid one we had to buy that was like $200 or some shit.
I know, it's ridiculous. So, but we needed it for the test, and I forgot mine that day, or mine was out of batteries or something. So I went up to go get it, and then somebody said something that like was either funny or rubbed me the wrong way or made me feel a strong emotion, and I fell down. I collapsed, so it's like, and so it's at heightened emotions. And so then the teacher freaked out. She was a young teacher too. This is like her first or second year, I think.
Oh, so she's like 20. Yeah.
Like, oh my God. She's like, oh no, please don't die. And she's like, don't worry about the test. I'm going to send you home. We didn't have a nurse at our school. So they called my parents, and it was like I think it was the last period of the day. So my parents just picked me up early. And so because I collapsed, they decided to see a neurologist. Cause when I was 8, and I think I was 8, I had a seizure. I had a seizure when I was 8. And so I was on seizure medication until I was like 10 or 11. And they said I had elementary seizures, so I like grew out of them. But because of that, they got me to a neurologist. Thank God we had a family friend who could squeeze us in, because it takes like a month or 2 usually to get an appointment. And
insane.
He was able to fit us in that week, and he was able to be like, oh yeah, this sounds like narcolepsy. Let's get you in a sleep study and a test. And, it accelerated, but it was really nice to actually know what was wrong. Cause there are so many people that are misdiagnosed or undiagnosed, and they're just like, I feel like something's wrong with me, but I don't know what. And that unknown, I feel like, is almost worse than when you're figuring out what it is. because once you're figured out, it's like, okay, now I can know what the steps I need to do. I can take this medicine. I can see what works. I can, and I was very lucky because having 2 years from onset, being diagnosed, that is short when it comes to narcolepsy diagnosis. Average diagnosis is 10 to 12 years from onset for narcolepsy. I know several people that were diagnosed in their 20s. I know a couple of people that were diagnosed in their 30s. And yeah, so I'm very lucky that I was diagnosed as early as I was, because I was able to like accept it and be like, okay, this is who I am. Well, let me actually, I'll go back. I didn't fully accept it till probably I started talking about it on stage. So
really? So what did you tell people at school, or was it just like in high school? I mean, I was not a popular human, and I just assume every comedian probably wasn't too, but that's not real. So did you have friends that you could?
I was middling,
Yeah.
But you're also like a teenager and people don't really get what it is, like, yeah, I can explain it, but it's hard to get it. And there's like other random stuff. Like before I was diagnosed, I was like working as a dishwasher at some pizza calzone place nearby the school. And like, they fired me because I wasn't washing dishes fast enough. It's not that I couldn't wash dishes fast enough. It was I was falling asleep standing up.
Oh my gosh.
And I'd have to catch up because it was so mundane and like kind of anything repetitive or mundane. It's really easy. It's called automatic behavior as well. So it's where your brain kind of shuts off and your body does like the same thing. So that's another symptom as well.
How do you drive then? Because like that's one thing that is hard, because it is an automatic, like zoned out,
I'm really lucky because when I was diagnosed, there weren't those limitations on narcolepsy. I have been on the same medication for a long time and it's been very controlled, and I'm, very good control over that. I don't drive long distances by myself. I put my own personal limits. I don't think it's the government's business to limit me on what I can and can't do, considering I've been on the same medication for.
So there's government limits now is what you're talking about. There's regulations that weren't in place when you were first driving and diagnosed.
At least not in Kentucky. And then when I moved to Illinois, they didn't ask me about that stuff. So I didn't tell them. Like here, it's different. It's like, as long as you've been on the same medication for like over a year or whatever, but like if you're recently diagnosed with narcolepsy, they can just, some people, depending on their doctor, they could get their licenses taken away until they've been approved that they can, do
How do you prove that if you can't drive? You know what I mean? Like they're like, take it away. And you're like,
well, it's for people that are newly diagnosed that need to, and it also depends on the doctor. Like not all doctors, I think it's encouraged that they report it, but not all doctors do. But some people, their doctors do and don't tell them. It's like a whole thing. And like a ton of doctors also don't want to officially diagnose people as narcoleptic because of that. But then it also prevents them from getting medications and insurance. And like, there's a whole, like, it's a whole like crazy world of shit you have to deal with. And people pushing medications on you that like, you're like, well, I tried that in high school, didn't work. And people still trying to push it on you. And, it's a whole thing. It's like, I found a good mix of medications that work well for me, but everybody's body is different. So I don't know, like, I'm lucky. I feel like I'm really lucky because, I had parents that didn't limit me. They didn't make me feel like I couldn't do stuff, even though I had narcolepsy. They didn't flinch when I went to school 6 hours away, and then moved to Chicago by myself without knowing. I didn't have any family or friends there, I mean, why'd
you go to Chicago? What brought you?
It wasn't far from my school. So I went to Northern Illinois because they had a good theater program. And I mean, like I had some friends that moved there, I didn't know nobody, but I didn't have any family or anything. So it's only like an hour or so away from Chicago. So
Louisville, I can't say it, I guess.
No, Northern Illinois.
Northern Illinois is where you went to college, which was only an hour away from Louisville.
No, only an hour away from Chicago. Louisville is about
6 hours.
6 hours, yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I'm like trying to do the math and I can't do the math. And you like, when did you start doing stand-up comedy?
I started doing stand-up about 7.5 years ago. So
so out of college.
Yeah, I did improv. I started improv and sketch in college. I would drive from Chicago from school to Chicago, and I took IO and Second City Conservatory and Annoyance and like all those things. And then I was part of improv and sketch groups for a while. Did improv musicals. I did shows at the Second City Space, at Donnie Skybox, at IO. I did like a bunch of different shows, and then I started At one point I started stand-up. I'd started writing down ideas for stand-up. Because I saw somebody, and I was somebody who was, I think I was dating somebody who wasn't very funny, first of all. And I was one of those girlfriends that went to an open mic, right? I went to an open mic with him, and he wasn't that funny. And
how was that?
It was not a great set. And like on the way home, I remember, and like looking back as a comic, I was like, I get why this probably annoyed him, but I was coming up with better tags for him for his jokes. Now he was a lazy comic. Let me be real with it. He was a lazy comic, someone that maybe went to a couple of mics a month. And in Chicago, there was so much free stage time that's ridiculous. If you're living in Chicago, you can do easy 3 sets a night. If you're really trying, you could do 5 sets a night of free stage time. So it's like, yeah, it's pretty great place to start. And so like, obviously things didn't work out with that guy.
Is he still doing comedy?
No, not at all. Like, no, he's like, I think he's like settled and engaged and living in the suburbs and like probably has kind of a, Midwestern life. I
dated a comic briefly a few years ago, and we're friendly, and he's still a comic and he's still around, and we're like, we'll see each other and we're friendly, but it didn't end well. It wasn't don't date a comic. Don't date someone in your field. In my opinion, this guy and I had the potential to be like best friends, and instead we decided to make it romantic, and now we borderline hate each other. I wouldn't say we hate each other, but it's for sure we'll never be friends again, right? Yeah. But I remember the first time we both saw each other on stage, and I was terrified he wouldn't be funny. I was terrified. I was like, if he's not funny, I can't be attracted to him. And he also was like, I felt the same way. And then we both were like, oh, thank God we're both really funny. So it was fine. Yeah. But it's
funny because I just experienced that because I've been seeing somebody during quarantine, right? And they went to my show recently. It was the first official show I had back, and he had never seen me do comedy. And like, I told him not to look at my stuff. I mean, like, I know I'm funny, so I'm not worried about it. But like, I know, like, I think he was like a little worried in the back of his head, like, what if she's not funny? Like, I spent almost like 3 months hanging out with her. Like, it's,
I can't take someone seriously if they're untalented in the thing they want to do. No, and that's
a good point because I agree, but like, thankfully I'm funny. So it's not, it was good.
It was fine. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. But
I dated 2 dudes one dude I never dated. We met on Tinder or whatever. I was going to say Instagram. I don't know, whatever the apps are. I'm not on the apps anymore, but I dated him, or we didn't date. We met, and then we were supposed to go, like, we talked on the phone. He was very nice, very sweet. It was like, oh, this guy's he's like a chef or some shit. I don't know. And he got in a car accident. And so he, like, the day of our date or the day before our date or something, and he was just like, look, I'm fine, but I'm like really banged up. So I'm just on a lot of drugs. Do you mind if we like put our date for another day? Right. And he just had my name and he didn't know what I did. And I usually keep that to myself until you get to know me. And just because the comedian thing, there's just a lot to unpack, and it's just a lot of annoying. And so
he's an LA comedian. Like, some people they say they're a comedian when they're a comic actress, and it's like,
And also I did the show at the same club you did, and I got off stage, and there was a woman that I've worked with many times, and she was like, and she knows me really well. And she's like, I love the character you are on stage. I'm not an insecure, dick sucking, crazy drunk. You know what I mean? But that is those are where my jokes come from. And so we're texting while he's in bed all day on drugs. And he's like, so what do you do? Like, I would have asked that. And I was like, all right, well, I'm a comedian. Please don't Google me. Just don't Google me. And he's like, I promise I won't. I was like, get to know me first and then Google me. Cause it's just like, that sounds so like arrogant, but it's just like, there's so much shit about me on the internet that I'd rather you know me and then you can learn that shit. Right.
Well, especially with having a podcast, like I've got over 100 episodes of me talking about like sex and sleep and like all this stuff with my podcast. Like, if someone wanted to know, like,
literally anything,
they could listen, which is odd that I have that out there. But like, I think that that's a good thing. I think now in relationships, you should be like asking permission to Google somebody, or asking, like, I was very upfront. I was like, hey, I do stand up, but I want you to see me for the first time in person. So don't look up my videos. I'd appreciate that. And he understood, and he respected that.
I was seeing someone that had just ended a couple of weeks ago. I don't really want to talk about it. I cry when I talk about it. Sorry. Like, because people are like, oh, you were? And I'm like, I did my guy crying today. I don't want to do it anymore. But I was like, he hasn't listened to my podcast. And I was like, I want you to not, I asked him not to, because I was like, I talk about us. I talk about my childhood. I talk about really painful shit. And I'd rather, and I was like, unless you want to hear the story from me telling hundreds, not thousands yet, but maybe one day thousands, but, or do you want me to do it intimately with you? I'd rather tell my story to you. And he respected it as far as I know. But so this guy was like, okay, so I'm super Googleable, right? For like, because my name is with a Y and comedian, it's just not. So he was like, I'm going to Google you, the guy I'd never met. And I was like, I really don't think you should. And he was like, I'm going to do it. Don't worry. I don't think there's going to be anything I can find that will make me not want to see you tomorrow. And I was like, all right, buddy. And I was like, maybe you won't even be able to find me. There are 2 KYM comedians, and the other one is a 50-year-old Black woman. So it's very easy you just have to write Kim comedian. Ghosted. Never heard from him again. Unmatched me on Bumble.
You don't even know why?
No idea.
I told you why. Like, what was the thing? What was the joke? Like, what was the picture?
What was the comment? What was the joke? What was the sketch? I was an Operation Repo. I had a bunch of people thought that was real. Like people from high school were like, man, I didn't know LA was that rough. I can't believe your boyfriend's Vespa got. I'm like, that wasn't real. I auditioned for that. That was a reenactment. So like, I don't know. And I didn't even think, like, he just didn't respond for a few hours. And I just assumed he's like super drugged up in a car accident. So I just didn't think much of it. And the next day I was like, hey, are we still going to get dinner tonight? Nothing. Then I text again like later. And then I was like, okay. And then I was talking to my buddy and I was like, do I text again? He goes, I would just ask if he's okay. And so I even did like the last Hail Mary of like, at least tell me you're okay. Like, I know you got in that accident. I hope he might've died. I don't know. I like to tell my ego that he just died. Like that's
maybe he just died. Maybe he like, maybe he was watching your comedy and he laughed so hard that you like literally killed him.
I killed him. That's
And
it's so funny because I was so bummed about it, right? Because like he seems so nice, and this was years ago, so I don't care. But like now, it's just always, and like especially when you're in a heartbreak situation or when things are like, I think back and I'm like, that really bummed me out, even though I didn't know that guy. But like now, I couldn't pick that guy out of a lineup, and I think his name was Jason. You know what I like? I'm just like,
it's like, I'm the same way with people because I went through a lot of dating in Chicago. And then when I got here, I was like, okay, comedy's coming first above anything else. So like anybody that I'm gonna see, I'm like, hey, my career's coming first. So like I am seeing this guy now. So, which I guess dating, by the way, the definition of dating changed. So in Chicago, when I thought dating, I'm like, okay, you can date multiple people. That means you go out on dates with them. It's not too serious. But I guess now dating means like more serious, like a boyfriend-girlfriend scenario. And I didn't know when that changed, but apparently it changed.
I don't think it changed. Did he tell you that?
No, it's no, not just him, but people that are younger. He's a couple years younger. But like anybody I know that are in their like mid 20s right now, like, and I asked a bunch of people, and my roommate thinks the same thing. Like dating means something serious versus seeing or talking to. And I didn't know that. I was like, when did they fucking change the rules? They didn't have a memo out or anything.
I'm gonna die alone. I'm done. I'm like, I can't. I just want to meet a nice guy that is funny. You know, can hold a job, cares about, you know, the world. I was talking to somebody about
is it weird that nice sometimes equals to boring? Is that bad? Like, I'm not saying I don't want a nice person. Like I'm seeing somebody who's like nice to me, but he's a little ruthless when it comes to business, which is kind of hot.
No, I want them to be nice to me. Yeah, the guy I just ended, I was always like, you're like Bernie Sanders. Like you're like super grumpy and you hate the people that you care about. Like he hates humans, but he is so passionate about progressive issues, right? But he's like so mad about the fact that he cares. And I'm like, that's how Bernie Sanders is. Bernie hates us, but Bernie wants to save us. But Bernie knows that we can't, like we're not capable of saving ourselves. So he's trying to save us, but we keep not letting him. That's how my old guy was. Like he was just like, fucking humans. But he loved, so he was nice to me, but yeah, not so I don't want
can't deal with
nice.
super negative. I can't deal with super negative. Like I'm an empath. So like I take in people's energy. It's already a lot for me to be awake and up and everything. So it is hard for me to like be around. It's just exhausting. I wake up exhausted as it is. So it's already hard. And I had to have a big conversation before I started dating someone about that. Like at this point, when you Google me, you find out I have narcolepsy right away. So it's like, clearly I don't even have a backup plan for a job. Like this is what I'm doing in my life, some form of comedy and writing and performing. Like this is it. Because if I was trying to get a 9-to-5 job, anytime you Google me, it's very clear that I have, narcolepsy. I openly talk about sex on my podcast and all this stuff. So it's like, yeah, I'm not going to be in a suit at a fucking 9-to-5 job. That's not going to be me.
Ever. I'll never be able to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I have to end up having a conversation with people like really upfront. And like, it's good because like he and I, the guy I'm seeing right now, he and I were friends first. So we were actually friends first. I like to say like I was so, alone during the pandemic. I started, revisiting who I friend zoned and like decided to.
Really? Yeah. Did you meet him on an app or did you were just
in person? So it was he moved like a couple months after I did to LA. Oddly, also from Chicago. We lived like 4 blocks away from each other in Chicago for years, which is so random. Like we're convinced that there's some picture of us where both of us are in the background at the same party or something. But yeah, I was wearing a Cub shirt at like Sam's Bagels off of Sunset. And one day, because I used to live right by there, now I live in a different part of WeHo, and like he said, oh, you're from Chicago. Like, and so we just started talking and we had like a conversation in the back because he does like filmmaking and producing and stuff. So we just like kind of became friends. And then I think like during the pandemic, like February or something, I was like, oh, like I've been working on, TV show pitches. I'm trying to like sell a TV show right now. Like, can I get your opinion on this pitch deck? And so we ended up coming over to look at that. We were both super cautious when it comes to like COVID stuff, but like I had been like only around like 2 people like in 2 weeks. And so it was like, okay, like he's somebody like at least I trust because he's a friend. Right. And so then, but we ended up hanging out for like 12 plus hours. Like we didn't do anything the first time. I was like, oh, somebody I can hang out with for this long. Okay. Like this is interesting. And then like next time we hung out, I was like, okay, I'm going to make a move.
And you made the move.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's so brave.
Well, he made it very clear. Like he's like, kind of separates business and, other things. And, he's very above board when it comes to all that stuff. So like, but yeah, so like that's that, but he gets it, which is good. He understands the narcolepsy. But when I was in Chicago, and actually before I started stand-up, I didn't really know how to talk about it really to people I was seeing. Sometimes I would hide it from people and even friends. I wasn't really accepting of it of myself. Like I knew I would tell people that what it was, but they didn't understand it. Like my friends here, they know what a cataplexy is. They know the medications I'm on. They know the intricacies of what having narcolepsy is, and they really took the time to understand it, which is really cool. But before, I had a group of friends that were kind of toxic in Chicago, and they would, not realize that maybe the reason I talked faster, unintentionally interrupted people was because I'm on uppers to stay awake, and that affected it, and they might like, it's like one time I was hanging out with a group of girlfriends, like I said, this toxic group. And apparently we have, when you have group text, right? I got a message on a group text that said, Bernie won't shut up again. And it was supposed to be a group text between them. And that Bernie is in like weekend at Bernie's kind of thing, because when I drank too much, I would, like that kind of stuff. Like super
holy shit. What did you say? Were you like, Bernie's in this chat, bitches? Or like, I don't know what you'd say.
We were at a dinner, like we were doing like a cooking and dinner thing. And it was like,
you were in person and they sent Okay, tell the story. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Like the thing is that I was not a strong person back then about this kind of stuff. I had gone through a massive breakup. My heart was crushed. And a couple of these people were still mutual friends with my ex, which didn't help. They played in a band with him. And I was heartbroken over this 5-year relationship that didn't work out, that started in college, and we lived together and our parents met, like we spent holiday, like it was a whole thing, like I thought this was the person I was going to end up with. And God, looking back, I would have been so fucking bored. Like I would not be where I'm at today. I'm so thankful where I'm at. But this was a toxic group of people. Like it was one time it was somebody's birthday. God, this is almost maybe like, this is several years ago. somebody's birthday. And I keep in mind, I had been with this guy for a long time and I wasn't quite over him. And I knew that we were mutual friends. And sometimes we went to concerts together. And sometimes we did toxic things like, oh, it's my birthday. Let's go out and have dinner and then have sex. Not healthy at all.
Wait, why is that unhealthy? It's my birthday. Let's go out and have sex or go to dinner.
Well, we weren't together anymore.
Oh, I missed that part. Okay. I was like,
we would go and celebrate what would have been our anniversary, even though we broke up, because like it was so fucked up. Like, it
so
was
codependent. Yeah.
Yeah, it was so not healthy. But
it happens.
And it wasn't intentional. The thing is that he is a nice person and he had good intentions, but he was a horrible communicator and couldn't decide on what the fuck he wanted with anything, you know? And he also wasn't ambitious. Like, he would be happy just being content doing the same old shit. Whereas I want to do big things.
That's my first love proposed. And I was like, buddy, you want to work at the airport. I have my head in the clouds. Like, I think I said the words, you have a label maker and I keep my deodorant in a pizza box that I sleep with. Like, we're opposite. And he was like, I'll follow you around the rest of our lives with a vacuum cleaner. I just want to. And I was like, and you know what? That guy ended up with a woman that is, they have, I think maybe 3 kids. I'm not sure. I haven't been on his Facebook in a while, which is kudos to me. But we're like old friends now, right? Like, we're old, but he has like 3 kids with this broad and like, she's boring. And I don't mean that in a shitty way, but like, she's just like, this is what I want to do. I don't have much more ambition than just like, I'm a mom. And I you know, like I know that's not a disrespect to my mom friends. I have a lot of mom friends, but they have other projects, things they want to do. And like, they have it's not just, actually all of my mom friends are like, I have kids, but I also have 52 other
passions and interests. Like, that's the thing. I need somebody passionate, somebody ambitious. Ambition is like one of the sexiest things to me, for sure. But not just ambition, but ambition and also follow through and work. Because I'm ambitious, but I put in work. I work towards things. I'm working on stuff.
Not just like, I have these dreams, but I'm not going to work towards them. Real quick, so what did you, the Bernie, I want to go back to that. I'm so sorry, but that is straight bullying, dude. That's awful.
Yeah, but the thing is, I didn't think about it that way. And like, these, you know, when you have a group of friends and you didn't, you know, and again, these were friends that didn't take the time to really get to know they knew I had narcolepsy, but they didn't really take the time to get to, because these were friends I'd go out drinking with, you know, you know, we went to Cabo and spent, you know, we're really drunk. And like, you know, sometimes I would get so drunk that I'd like go to the bathroom and fall asleep like in the bathroom. And like, or sometimes people would think I was passed out drunk when really I was just tired. And so there's like a whole variety of things. But yeah, so what was it? It was one of them threw a surprise party for somebody's big birthday. Because there was a couple of them that were older that were hanging out with us in our early 20s. And they were like, you know, in their 30s. So there were 2 of the friend group were like older, and then 2 of the friend group were like kind of my age. And we were kind of learning about like going out in the world based on them. And they weren't in healthy situations either, but that's another time. Anyway, so one of them had a surprise party and we were all going to go over to her house early, and her boyfriend at the time was going to take her out for dinner, and then they were going to come home and we were going to surprise them. So with a surprise party like this, you're stuck at the house, right? You can't go anywhere, right? Mm-hmm. So I go there with the group of friends, and then my other friend comes and sets me aside for a second. And she's like, and I knew that there was a chance that my ex could be there, right? I knew that there was this chance. And so I prepared myself mentally. Okay, he might be here. I can handle being in the same room as him. But she sets me aside and she's like, Sarah, just so you know, this person, he's coming and he has a new girlfriend and he's bringing her and he's coming in the door like within a minute. So I didn't even have time to leave. It was super bad. And then so what I did, and she was a perfectly nice person, perfectly nice, but that's almost worse because she's super nice and like, you know, cute, and that's fine. You know, I mean,
her intentions might not have been shitty. Like, she might have been trying to.
Yeah. And like, but I kept drinking and then going to the bathroom and crying and then coming back out and drinking. And it was just a super, super not great night. And then after that night, I never talked to all of those people again. I mean, like I like a cordial on social media, blah, blah, blah. But like, I cut them out of my life at that point because I was like,
after the group chat that was not supposed to have you in it.
No. So that had happened before, but this is the same group. And like after this event where it's like, okay, that's really shitty of you. Like you know how hard that was for me to not prepare me, to not like give me a chance to like get out before he comes in the door, to have me be stuck in this situation before my friend comes in. Now, I don't really blame the girl who's the surprise party it was, because she didn't know, and I do think she might have told me, but there's only one friend who I'm still like friends with out of that group, and she was not really the main group. She was like an extra friend that I had before. She was a friend I had for years before, but it was just like super toxic, and I was like, I don't need people in my life that treat me this way. And I just started stand up like 6 months before. So,
okay.
So I had starting to meet new people and get people that I was like, oh yeah, like people are interested in the narcolepsy. People are interested in me, and they think I'm funny, and these are way healthier people to be around.
I add value to a group of people, and I don't need to be around people that don't see that. Yeah,
exactly. But it literally took me talking about it on stage to really fully accept it in myself, and like start to realize I only want people in my life that do accept that understand there are these things about me. Yes, I have to work hard to not interrupt people, but I'm a collaborative interrupter. I'm not like hey, my thing is more important than yours. It's like, hey, I'm excited about this idea, I want to build on it. It's not but like some people take that super offense to that, and they don't realize it's a choice of me being sleepy all the time or me being a little bit more energetic and,
living a normal life as best like the way you can. Yeah. I didn't know you were on a bunch of uppers. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I take Vyvanse to stay awake, and then I take Ritalin as a backup when that wears out, because it's an extended release. And then I take medicine at night that I can't mix with alcohol. So I've got like a bedtime for when I can drink. I can have one drink before 9 p.m. or two before 7 p.m. and or take a night off. I take a night off once in a while, once every couple weeks. but yeah. So, but it's all like things that people have to get, like, and it's hard sometimes to find people that understand that. Like, but I think with comedy, I was able to find that. And because so many people are so open about everything. They're open about their depression, about, family issues, about trauma. People are open about everything. And so it made it a lot easier for me to be open. So it was kind of my way of dealing with that. I used to be that person. I was like, oh, like never burn bridges. No, fuck it. Burn those bridges. If they're toxic, burn the bridges. Burn them to the ground.
Dude, I burn bridges all the time. I actually currently am a bridge is starting to be burned, and I have friends that are very upset about it. And I'm like, every time, this has been a pattern in my life. I read people. I had a very bad childhood. And in order to survive it, I'm very hypervigilant, and I read people, right? Very well. And I'm always right, always. And in my life, I will go, that girl's terrible. I don't want to be friends with that girl. But everyone's like, and it's always the pretty nice girl, right? They're like, but she's so nice. I'm like, nope, she's a trash fire. I'm not going to be friends with her. And then it's like 3 years of everyone convincing me to be nice to this trash can. And then everyone starts to get it. And they're like, oh my God, you're so right about that girl. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm never off. And I saw a girl last night at a show that everyone now is on my side that she sucks. She sucks. Like, accusing people of rape that didn't rape her sucks. Like, sucks. But I was like, I never liked her. She's a rude anyway, right? And I always was like, I'll be nice. My friends are friends with her. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck. And when I see her, she's always like, I also am an intimidating woman. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not, like, I don't mean to be, but you know what I mean? Like, I don't blend in, and people like me. So I showed up last night, and she just sat in the corner, and I was like, well, maybe don't accuse people of raping you when they didn't do it. I don't know. But burn the bridge, bro.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, I'm such a stronger person now than I was. Like I look back, like, I was like, oh, like looking back, I was like, of course, nowadays, anybody said that kind of shit, I would totally call them out. But I was like I was just so weak and heartbroken and
but that's shit. Not like you had like in my opinion, you had to go through that in order to become the woman that is able to stand. So I don't I never want to like going back and being like, well, I was so weak and heartbroken. No, you had to be that in order to be the awesome that is you now. You know what I mean? Like,
well, if I didn't go through that pain, I probably wouldn't have started stand-up, because we all start stand-up because something fucked up happened, right?
Yeah, no, and that's, we're like the island of broken toys. Stand-up comedians are so fucked up. And you're right, we're all like, hey, I got this, you got that? Oh, I had this sexual abuse, trauma, like all this stuff. We're all like, oh my God, like, and it's...
And that's what I like talking about it, because at least when I talk about it, it also brings awareness. It makes people laugh. Like, I want to be able to go deeper into it, which I kind of wrote a one woman show during the quarantine. So I'm trying to find a director for that right now and like try to do that for Hollywood Fringe. So that's what I'm working on. But like, it's, and there's other things I did, like I said, it feels good to like bring awareness to it. And like, people are like, oh, like I never met a narcoleptic before. I was like, you probably did, but they didn't know that they were narcoleptic either.
Or they probably had the same thing that you had before, where it was like, I don't want to talk about this with people, like.
It's weird when you keep something like that, like as a secret. It's like so hard because you're trying to blend in and be normal. And it's like hard. Like I would try to like hide, and like I found like I was temping in an office or something, and like I found like a empty office to like take a nap in during lunch. Like I wouldn't tell people, and it's like it's a whole messed up thing. And sometimes when you do tell people and they're like, oh, they still try to write you up for shit, even though I was like, hey, I said if I'm not participating in a meeting and I'm there, you're making me be there. If I'm not like actively in part of it, then like I will fall asleep. I can't, like, I have to be doing the nice thing is I have to be doing interesting things. People can't bore me. I can't be around boring people. Like all the people I have around me in my circle are interesting, amazing, funny, great people, which is awesome because that's one little barrier I have. Like I can't go on, like I just can't deal with boringness because I'll just fall asleep. Like if I'm bored,
I'll just fall asleep. I'll fall asleep on you. Well, that's what I find like with like, that's why I wanted to talk to you about it, because it's like, I find with like these things that make us different or make us, like whatever, like society looks at us like we're broken somehow because we have a quirk is the wrong word, but you know what I mean? Like, but like I want to, a very dear person in my life was growing up. She was always known as like the bitch, and she was a bitch, and she was a little girl. She was a fucking little girl, and people were like, she's such a bitch. And then she grew up and she was diagnosed bipolar, and it was like I was struggling with a pretty bad mental disorder my whole life. And like, that's why I wanted to do this show. Cause I was like, I want to talk to like, and obviously bipolar and narcolepsy are 100% different, but there's a stigma around all, like we're supposed to feel embarrassed by who we are. And I think the more we talk about this shit, the more we take out the stigma, and we can all just understand we're all fucked up in some way. We all have a thing.
And looking back too, it's so messed up how I was treated too, like treated in school, right? Because like I had a teacher that would spray me in the face with a water
Shut the fuck up.
This is before I was diagnosed. And I think even after, actually,
male,
female. A different math teacher. And then, but then later that year, she's pregnant later that year, her water broke in our class. And I was like, that's what you get. Like in my head, I was just like, and then I had another teacher. Keep in mind, I had a family friend that was my neurologist who was a friend of mine in school in my grade, right? Mm-hmm. I had my parents, we had one of those teachers that was like a coach, right? He was like a football coach or something. And he just played videos instead of actually teaching. And then if you fell asleep during the video, you got a 0 for the day. Well, I got diagnosed with narcolepsy and I was in his class, and he had the doctor's note from my doctor, and his daughter was in one of his other classes. He asked my doctor's daughter about my diagnosis. How fucked up is that? Like, I switched out of his class. I ended up taking independent study because that was so fucked up.
My mouth is on the floor, dude.
Yeah, no, I mean, and the thing is that when people don't know what's wrong, like they will treat you like you're lazy. And that's my trigger word. Nobody better fucking call me lazy, lazy or boring. I think those are my two like trigger words. Like if you really want to insult me, but I know I'm not neither of those things. So it's not really going to hurt.
Well, I worked through years of laziness. Like I wasn't lazy. I had depression issues growing up, but my dad called, and I had trauma from him. And like, now that I've gone through like therapy and 12 steps and all that stuff, I know that like my quote laziness was me disassociating and having PTSD. And like, but like laziness is my trigger word too. When people call me lazy, and I'm like, I'm not, and I'm one of the most ambitious.
I mean, gosh, looking at your to-do list board, you're like you're doing stuff. I love it.
Oh yeah, the board makes me look like a murderer, but it
doesn't. It makes you look like someone who's got a lot of shit you're working on, and it's amazing. And I think that's great. Thank
you. My book's coming out, and that's the like.
Yeah. I love that.
And I'm mentioning that every time I see somebody, I'm like, buy my book. Will you buy my book? Someone buy my book. Who's going to buy my book? And I know people will, but it's like terrifying when, you're writing I did a one woman show 3 years ago. This last year is weird. So whenever before times.
What is time? Before we lost track of time.
Before the world ended. And it was horrifying. It was terrifying. So you're like, yeah. So but I get the lazy word, the trigger, because.
Yeah, because it's like I have worked so hard to like get out of that stigmatization, and like at least in college, I at least was able to tell my teachers and things like that. I was a theater major, so like half my classes were very active anyways, and I did well and everything, but I had to stack my classes back to back, almost like you would in high school, so that I wouldn't go back to my dorm, so I wouldn't fall asleep in between classes. And like the busier I am, like the better I am. So like if I've got a lot of things to do, the more productive I am, and it's just things you realize about yourself. But I've been super like glad that I'm able to also help people. Like I have friends now that'll come up to me and be like, oh my gosh, a friend of mine from high school just got diagnosed with narcolepsy. Can I connect you? I'm like, of course, I will answer questions, because I didn't have that stuff. I'm very active in narcolepsy support groups, which online support groups, okay, there are good things and bad things. Some people are super, super negative, and it's like, that's so hard, I'm in
a long haul COVID support group. And you're right. There's like some people that I'm like, yeah, I relate to that so much. That's how I'm feeling. And then every third post is like, I want to kill myself. Nothing's getting better. And it's like, I feel for you, man. But like, yeah, I can be a downer.
I'm definitely like a glass half full kind of person. I'm like, okay, yeah. I know what it is. I'm taking medicine. There's other people around that have it. It's rare, but that makes me different, I try to do some creative things outside of that, so I made a web series with my friend, Catherine Pavanelli, who's a comic out here. So she and I were living in Chicago, and we went to brunch with our friend Greg Holloman, and we were just like, okay, we're going to have margaritas for brunch. And I think she didn't know I had narcolepsy at this time. We were doing stand up, and stuff, but, and she's like, oh my God, you have narcolepsy. She's like, you'd be the worst superhero. And I was like, oh, we should write that. So we wrote a web series called Super Narcoleptic Girl that had like, we wrote it. It took us a little while to write it. And then we, produced it. We did a GoFundMe. We did a, 8 episode series. And looking back, I'm still pretty proud of it. It's really fun.
Can you find it somewhere?
Yeah. You can, I think it's still sngwebseries.com,
All right. I might look that up.
It's all on YouTube and stuff. Like looking back, it's like, there are some things I should do. Like, I could have done differently, because I know much more about the film world now, but like, I was pretty proud of it. Like we did it, I think released in 2018, right before we moved here, and we both moved out to LA, and we've written a pilot about that. And then I did a podcast, because it's kind of like a little inspired, because Mark Maron, like he almost killed himself in his garage, and then he created a podcast in the garage, right? Where he almost killed himself. So for me, my bed is somewhere that has been mostly unproductive unless I'm having sex, right? But I feel like I've had this connection to like my bed, because it's like, okay, this is a place where you felt like I've wasted time, where I'm working on it, like where I used to get mad when I slept all day because my body needed it. And so I was like, let me do something productive in my bed. So I started doing a podcast where I interview people physically in my bed called Sleeping with Sarah. I usually interview comedians, and I'll also interview actors and artists and musicians and other people. During the pandemic, I did it remotely, but I'm about to relaunch it in person. I've got a couple more remote episodes to release, but I'm going to relaunch it in person, hopefully starting in July, like a relaunch a new season. So
yay, I love that.
But yeah, it's like the whole point was like, I'm going to take this place that I've had this negative connotation to and try to create something productive out of it, something I can be proud of, something, and also fun. Like it's fun to like be intimate and like lying next to someone you don't know that well, because it immediately, has a different dynamic than, and also do a podcast, I'm trying to do something like different and everything. So, so that's like, so I try to like, I definitely have a brand of like, the narcoleptic comedian, that sort of thing. But
that's like taking a thing that most people would not most people, I don't want to, but a lot of people would let that be, that's who they are. My identity is I have this. And like, you were like, oh, yes, I have this, but I'm going to make it matter. And I'm going to make it, do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And it's not all of who I am. Like,
yeah, it's not who you are at all.
I love to smoke weed. I've got, I'm like hypersexual. Like, it's like, there's a lot of things about me, and it's not just the one thing. And I think that's also something that people have to realize. Just because you are diagnosed with something, it doesn't mean that that's all of who you are. And I think that's also what people can get in their head. And they're like, and like, there's obviously ups and downs with it, but like, for me, I'm just thankful like that I was able to get to understand it and to have supportive family members to the point where they didn't make me feel, because some people, when they get diagnosed with something like that, it's like parents would be like coddling them and be like, oh no, you can't go away to school far away. Oh, you can't.
You need to live with us forever because
or you can't. But honestly, I was so awful to my mom in high school that she didn't even shed a tear when I went away to college. She was happy to have me gone because I was a horrible teenager. I really was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, we're all assholes when we're teenagers, right? But like, I would like sneak out. I would start all these big fights. I like threw party. Like, it was a whole thing,
So you were more popular than you think you were. I feel like everybody who's like, I threw a party, I snuck out. Dude, my best friend was really, really popular, right? We didn't go to high school together. And I was like, maybe we would be friends in high school. And she goes, didn't you play dolls till you were like 17? And I was like, she goes, didn't you frequently wet your pants from laughing too hard? And I was like, yeah, we probably wouldn't have been friends. You were the homecoming queen, and I brought my dolls to school and secretly played them in my backpack.
I think I was definitely like middling. I was definitely like, I got into like the art group of people, I think after, shortly after I'd been diagnosed. It's cool because one of my friends that I was friends with in high school, we didn't talk for like 10 years, but then she moved out here and we reconnected since she's been out here. So it's been good to have her. And she's a really cool fashion photographer now. So like,
I love that. All right, I'm going to change the subject and I'm going to probably scare you. Okay. Because every guest is like, oh, we had such a nice conversation and you brought it to that. And I did, because I am who I am.
All right.
Have you listened to my show?
I have.
Oh, so you know about the poop scoop.
What? The poop scoop? I listened to some of the earlier episodes where you were just talking about yourself. And I don't remember the poop scoop show.
Oh, the poop scoop's been around the whole time, but that's fine that you don't remember it because then it'll be a surprise for you.
That is something else. Real quick. I'm missing literal chemicals in my brain, so it makes my memory horrible.
Okay.
To make notes. Like the person I'm dating, I have a note in my note file about things that I don't want to forget because I'd be an asshole if I forgot them. like that, that he tells me. And it's just like, I am horrible with memory. And that's something that's called brain fog. So some people had that with COVID.
I have it with COVID.
So I'm glad that they use the term brain fog because that's the term that they use for narcolepsy community. We have brain fog normally. That's why I'm almost always late to social things because I'll forget my keys, I'll forget stuff, and I have to come back into the house and get them. It takes me like 3 times to leave my house.
It's awful. I can't imagine.
And people also attribute it to like, it's like similar to a pregnancy brain, but that's like how I am all the time. So when I forget things, it's not because and that's another thing I preface and I tell friends now, if I repeat a story, just be like, hey, you told me that already. Like, don't make me about it. Or if I forget something that you said, it's not because I wasn't listening or I didn't care. It's because I literally am missing chemicals in my brain.
Okay. And I don't take that stuff personally ever because I talk a lot. So I'm just like, I don't know. I can't keep track of all the things I've said. So I don't expect, and like, I can't imagine living with what I have with the brain fog your whole life. Like, cause like I have that now with my COVID stuff and I have to have like a literal checklist when I leave my apartment. Cause I'm like, okay, your keys, all the candles are unburned. Like, I'm like, and then I have anxiety that I didn't left something on or didn't, I forgot something. So it's fine that you don't know what the poop scoop is. Cause then it's more fun for me.
Yeah. Okay.
The poop scoop is where I ask you, for an embarrassing poop story. Have you ever pooped your pants? Let's get there first. Have you ever pooped your pants?
I probably did when
as an adult,
but I don't remember. So I do have a pee. Can I do a pee story?
Yes, but I don't believe you. But I have this theory, and all of my listeners know it. And I have people DM me and be like, "I agree with you," and I'm going to make a T-shirt that says, "You've either pooped your pants as an adult, or your time is coming." You do not get out of adulthood without shitting your pants once. There is nothing I'm more sure of in my life than that.
As an
you
adult,
will poop your pants at some point.
As an adult, I have not. I think I did shart at one point.
Sharting's pooping your pants. Sorry, I got way too excited about that.
You got very excited about that.
I love poop stories. So much.
But I usually had pretty good control over bowels. My ex, who I lived with, he would be so shocked because like I would go into the bathroom and like he would call me the fastest pooper ever because I'd go into the bathroom for like a minute and then come out and then like he'd use it and he'd be like, oh my God. like we were at that level. We dated each other for 5 years.
Yeah, but, I'm not judging.
Anyways, he used to call me like the fastest pooper. I have very good control over that. But
you have a strong sphincter. That's something you should be really proud of. I poop my pants a lot.
Yeah, I have.
So you can tell the pee story.
Yeah. I'll tell like, the pee story. The thing is like, it's also a little bit involving the narcolepsy. So like this isn't an adult thing, but it did happen. Not like, I mean, like it happened several years ago, not in LA, but before. But basically, during night stuff, like sometimes, you will, especially before diagnosed with narcolepsy, like there is a bunch of stuff. So when I was 13, I was staying over at my friend Lizzie's house, right? Staying over at her house. And like, I had these intense dreams and stuff. And I had a dream and I like peed my pants. Keep in mind, you're 13 years old, right? 13 years
nightmare.
Old. And like, it was like it was like a trindle bed or something. And I remember having to like go to her mom, like before she woke up and be like, I was so embarrassing because like at 13, you're like, at the point where like they're dropping you off at the mall and you're going to go shopping and you get to go to the movies by yourself. And it's
like the make or break time for the rest of your schooling time.
You're trying to do this. And I was like so mortified. Like, thank God it wasn't a sleepover. Oh my God, that would have been horrible. But like I didn't know that it probably was related to narcolepsy because that is a thing that some people experience a lot. Now I will say I have also experienced it once or twice because of stress, but this is why now I'm obsessed with peeing. Peeing, I pee before I go to bed in the middle of the night. I pee before sex. Like I pee all the time. So this doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen. I have a slumber party story about poop that was when I was 13 that you just reminded me of that I would like to share. Cause I think this was the moment. Like I said, I think that around that age is like when you're like, it makes or breaks you. You either thrive around that time or you pee your pants and play dolls in your backpack until you graduate high school, right? Like so I was at a slumber party and my best friend was popular and I wasn't. And so all the popular girls were there and, it was fine. Like I was a grade older, so they didn't really know. They knew I wasn't popular, but I wasn't like in their grade, so they didn't care. And so we all play and, light as a feather, all that shit, whatever. And we go to bed. And I wake up in the morning and all of them are standing over me and they're like, she's awake. Did you do it? We know you did it. And I was like, do what? And they're like, you flooded Julie's bathroom. Like you pooped and you plugged the fucking toilet and you flooded it. And I was like, no, I didn't. And they're like, we know it was you. It wasn't any of us. And I was like, it wasn't me. I peed in the middle of the night because one was like, I heard you get up in the middle of the night. And I was like, I peed in the middle of the night. And I was just so adamant. And then Julie's like, well, I got to fucking clean it up either way. And I was like, I'll help you, even though it was not me. And then we go in the bathroom and I was like, Julie, she goes, bitch, I know it was you. It's fine. I was like, I plugged your toilet. And like, none of them, I mean, thank God I couldn't pick any of those girls out of a lineup now. Who cares? But like, it was just watching Julie mop up my poop while I was just ashamed. That happened to me so many times in my childhood of just plugging a toilet and then just someone cleaning it up while I was just like, so I think I've made it funny.
No, I think that is like that's for me, I did sometimes at one point in my life have like bigger poops. So like when I was at like an older toilet or something that like had a smaller chute, I'd be like, okay, like maybe I don't do this. Like I have literally, oh God, this is embarrassing. But
I love this so much.
There have been times where I literally like took something to break it up so I could know it would go down,
Oh yeah.
Flooding, like to put the toilet paper around my finger and like break it up so that it wouldn't like flood the toilet.
Have you ever heard of the poop knife story? This kid was like in class. It's like an urban legend, but I'm pretty positive my friend had this kid in her class. So I think I heard it from the right person, but then I've read it all over the place. This kid was like, they were talking about like a thing in their bathroom or something. Like it was like what's in your home that you think is in everyone's home? And then you were shocked that it wasn't. And this kid was like, oh, the poop knife. And everyone's like, the poop knife. And his family has a knife they have hanging in their bathroom for them to break up their poop. And my friend was like, everyone was so shocked. No one asked any questions. I'm like, I have 15 off the top of my head right now. Do you clean it off afterwards? Where in the bathroom is it hanging? Do you tell your guests about it? Do you warn your guests? Like,
is it labeled? Is there
like the poop knife? Yeah.
Like,
is it next to the toilet bowl cleaner? Like,
is everyone in the family having that large a poop? Because at that point, you should just invest in a toilet that has a better
toilet. Yeah. But I one time had to break up my poop with a hanger in my mom's townhome, and she and my stepdad were so mad at me. And now, like that I'm older, I'm like, what a weird thing to get mad at a little girl for. My parents were all over the map. But yeah, and I broke up the poop, and with the hanger, it worked. But yeah, get a better toilet. All right, one more thing before I let you go, because we're about at the hour, and I promised you I wouldn't take your whole day. I have boundaries. I'm very proud of them. I have another segment on my podcast. I call it I'm One Lucky Broad. And I would like you to tell me something you're grateful for, but say I'm one lucky broad because. Can be anything.
I am one lucky broad because I have super supportive friends and like, I guess a boyfriend now, and like a bunch of people that are really awesome, that are creative, that are, inspire me, and like they accept me, and they're just awesome people. I don't know.
I love that. I think it's like they say you can change your brain chemistry if you list 3 things you're grateful for 21 days. And I just like, no matter how hard shit gets, I always just try to like be like, okay, this is what, even if some days are so hard that I'm like, I have a roof over my head, I have water, like basic shit is all I can come up with. But
and that's what I used to do too. Like, I mean, like sunshine. I'm grateful for sunshine. I'm grateful that I'm living here, and I was trying to do that too. 3 things you're grateful for every day and 3 things you're looking forward to, which was really hard to do during COVID. But, like one of the things I was looking forward to today was, doing the podcast with you, writing with Mark, going to see my friend, later, so just doing things like that.
I love that. I might try that. 3 things I'm looking forward to, because I do a gratitude list, but I think I'm going to do 3 things. I'm going to try that. That's a good, so that's the show. Tell everybody who's listening, before I let you go, tell them where we can find you, where all your shit is, your handles, the drill.
Okay. Yeah. So Sarah Albritton, SarahAlbritton on Instagram and Twitter, just at Sarah Albritton, no dots or spaces or anything. I also, if you want my website, which badly needs to be updated, is sleepysarah.com. So it's Sarah with an H. So just sleepysarah.com will take you there. Also, you can find my podcast, Sleeping with Sarah, on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, like all the places you listen to podcasts. My web series, Super Narcoleptic Girl, sngwebseries.com. You can find it on YouTube, all that kind of stuff. I think that's everything.
Oh my God.
I'm trying to get more followers.
Yeah, follow her on Instagram. Definitely follow her on Instagram. She hikes every day. Every day I see your hikes, and I'm like, this bitch hikes every day.
Yeah, it's
a term of endearment. You know that, right?
Yeah, no. But it's been my like therapy, and also like trying to like get off that COVID weight.
Yeah. That's I hear that. Now I'm trying to do the same thing. Well, thank you so much for doing the show.
I really appreciate it. It was I had a lot of fun. So let me know when it comes out. And
I think it comes out. I think it's like 2 days from now. I'm really bad at guests. I'm so bad at this. Like people are like, oh, are you backlogging? And I'm like, no, it's tomorrow. I record my podcast every Wednesday morning, an hour before I say it's going to be. I've accepted I'm a procrastinator. I read this woman. She was like, if you are a procrastinator, but you are a person who gets shit done when you need to get it done, be that person instead of trying to be someone else and then worrying a bunch that you're not, and then wasting all this time worrying that you're not going to get it done when you're going to get it done. So it comes out this Saturday is what I'm saying. I'm a procrastinator, but thank you.
Saturday.
Yeah. This Saturday.
One more thing. I have a show at Supernova on June 30th at 9:30.
So. You're on Supernova. I love that. Okay. And I'll be there. I will be there. And you guys should go too. The Supernova is a wild show. I'm trying to get on it too. It's wild people show up. By wild, I mean like Anthony Jeselnik. I don't mean like animals.
That
That's
would
clear.
be interesting if different kind of show.
Yeah, that would be. We do stand up. Well,
like a puppy's gonna do 5 minutes. You gotta.
There's cat mics. There's cat shows where there's like cats hanging around before times, where it was like a cat shelter, and you would do. I did a show in a cat shelter. It was heaven. It was what heaven feels like, but not everybody felt that way. I was like, can I take all of these cats home?
Once I was with my friend who vlogs, and I was in New York with her, and she wanted to go to a cat cafe in New York. And like, you can tell by the video that I'm so not into it as much. Like, I went to it because she liked it, but I just like, I think what it was is there was like clearly like some drips of blood on one of the tables that was not cleaned off. And I was like, that just immediately, like, I was like, nope, some of these cats are pretty violent. I don't know how I feel.
I feel like that's a reasonable reason not to be having a good time. There's literal blood on the table. But the thing that's reasonable.
Like my friend was just like, I had somebody else watched it recently because they met her, and they're just like, oh, I could tell like you were trying to be nice about this, but you hate it there. And I was like, yeah, I kind of did.
Oh, I love that.
A very good friend of mine. Very awesome. But
I love that. Yeah. Well, guys, and you can stay on after. We're on Zoom, everybody. So I always have this weird moment where I say bye, and then sometimes people just click off. Okay, we'll wrap up the podcast, guys. You know where to find everything. You know where to find me, KYMKRAL. Share it, review it, follow Sarah, leave me a review, comment, all that stuff. Send me some love. You know how much I appreciate it, and I love you all. Bye. Kral, stay strong.